If you've ever tried boondocking, using your RV out in nature without any hookups, for more than a couple days, you know how quickly power becomes a problem. If you don't have an inverter, you can't run anything that plugs into your outlets without turning on a noisy generator. But paying a tech like me to come upgrade your rig to solar so we can put in that inverter is a conversation that starts in the thousands of dollars range. We're gonna say 10K for this video, but that's just a rough estimate and it can easily go uphill from there. But what if there was an option that took up relatively little space, took no installation, can get you days worth of power, and costs a fraction of what it would cost you to have a tech come install a full solar setup in your rig? Today, we're gonna be talking about power stations for RVs, and specifically for this video, the Aferiy P210 power station, to see if these guys are a genuine option for RVers to extend their time in the wild without having to turn on their noisy generator. We're gonna break down this guy's real world performance, see what it can and can't handle, and see if it makes sense for van lifers, traditional RVers, or anyone who just wants to get off grid but still keep some power. And for full transparency's sake, Aferiy did send this to me for free to try out, but they're not paying me to make this video, and I get to say whatever I want. And believe me, I will. But let's jump into it. Okay, a little housekeeping at the top so we're all on the same page. What do we mean by boondocking? Boondocking usually means using your RV without any hookups, so not plugging into shore power. If you are a camp queen who has never tried RVing without plugging in, you may not realize that there are two types of electricity going through your RV: AC and DC. DC power comes from your batteries. It's easy to store, but it's not very powerful. AC power usually comes from plugging in, but it could also come from an inverter or from turning on your generator. We'll talk about what an inverter is in just a minute if you don't know. AC power is beefier than DC power, but we can't store it in batteries, which is why, in order to get it, we need some sort of outside source to manufacture it for us. These two types of electricity power different things in your rig. The DC power from your batteries is there for things like your lights, your slides, your leveling jacks, and all of your propane appliances. They've got little circuit boards in them that run off of DC power. AC power comes in to run your beefier appliances, like your air conditioner, any of your appliances that have an electric setting, like that fridge when you put it on auto, your microwave, and all of your outlets. An inverter, see, I told you I'd explain this really quick, is just a magic box that transforms the DC power that we can easily store in your batteries into beefier AC power to power things like your outlets. Most rigs out there don't have an inverter because they're kind of expensive. But just so we're all on the same page, when you are boondocking, if you do not have an inverter or have a generator running, none of the outlets in your RV are going to work. That brings us to this power station. This guy is basically like one of those charging bricks you might bring on a long flight to keep your phone charged, except way more powerful. Not only does it have a whole bunch of USB ports to plug in things like your phone or your laptop if it has a USB charger, but this guy also has a built-in inverter, so it can transform the DC power inside into AC power. And it's got 6 outlets on the side, so you can plug in anything that has a traditional plug. So if you're trying to boondock with this thing, he's not going to power your RV per se. So things like your water heater and your fridge will still need to be on propane in order to work, but he can be a separate source of power to plug into when you want to power other things during your trip. So again, just so we're on the same page out there, this guy is not going to make the outlet in your wall work, but he is going to provide you with other outlets that you can plug into. You're trading not having to do any install and a significantly lower price point for just a little bit of convenience. But after playing with this guy for a little bit, I do think if you are willing to make that trade-off, this guy could change how a lot of people RV. But how much oomph does this guy have, and how does he compare to having a full solar setup? Let's find out. I'm going to walk you through kind of step by step through what we would do if we were to put a full solar setup in an RV and show you how this guy compares, because he's got a lot of features hiding inside of him. So if you were to come to me asking to get a full solar setup done in your rig, the very first thing that we would look at is your battery bank. I would want to upgrade your batteries to lithium. Lithium is currently the lightest, longest lasting and most durable type of battery that there is on the market. So if you're looking to upgrade your batteries, that's usually the direction that we're looking to go. I would also look at upgrading the size of your battery bank. Right now, if you still have the battery that your rig came with from the dealership, you most likely, and I'm never gonna say 100%, but there's a pretty good chance that you have one 100 amp hour battery in your RV. And depending on how much stuff you wanted to run in your RV would determine what size of battery bank we upgraded you to. This Aferiy 2400 watt power station is claiming to have a 2048 watt hour battery inside, which if we converted that to amp hours for comparison's sake, is the equivalent to about 170 amp hour battery bank. So this guy most likely has a little less than double the battery bank inside of it that your rig currently does. And this battery bank is lithium. So what does that mean? Again, if you still have the battery that came from the dealership in your rig, you most likely have a lead acid battery. Lead acid batteries actually can't be discharged all the way to 0% without hurting the battery. The usual recommendation for lead acid batteries is to not discharge them under 50%. So that battery in your RV that says that it has 100 amp hours, you can really only use 50 of them before you start hurting the battery itself. Lithium, on the other hand, is very happy to be discharged all the way down to 0 over and over and over again without hurting the battery. So if we take that into consideration, the 170 amp hour battery bank inside is actually equivalent to over 3 times the usable amp hours that a traditional 100 amp hour battery has. You stick with me there? But if you're not real versed in batteries, these might just feel like crazy numbers that we're throwing around and they don't have any real meaning to you. You actually want to know, Emily, how much can I run on this thing and for how long? Well, that brings us to the next big feature on this thing. If I were to do a full solar setup in your rig, the next thing we would look into is getting you a battery monitor. So that way you can check in on your batteries, see how they're doing without constantly having to go to your battery bank and touch it with a multimeter. This guy has a nice bright screen right on the front that'll tell you all the information you need to know. And if you want to be a little nerdy / you don't want to have to get up into whatever cabinet you've put this thing, it does come with an app that makes it easy to check in on it. And when you plug things into this bad boy, it will do all of the math for you and let you know how much longer this battery will last given what you have plugged into it. So according to its own internal math, I could run my air fryer for 76 minutes off of a full charge, or run this coffee maker for 2 hours, or charge my laptop for 35 hours if using the 120 outlet. Pro tip here, if you have any sort of appliance that has a USB cable that plugs into a brick, don't use the brick with this thing. Unplug the brick and just plug the USB directly into the power bank. When you use the Edison brick, what's happening is the power in the batteries is getting transformed from DC power into AC power to then go into the brick. And then inside of the brick is another magical box that's transforming that AC power back into DC power. And every time we change types of power, it's inherently a little inefficient. We lose a little bit of energy each time we do it. So if you unplug your brick and just plug directly into the power bank, we're cutting out a lot of that middleman and being a lot more efficient. Basically, you'll be able to run your laptop for significantly longer if you do it this way than if you use the brick. If you have specific power needs of your own and you're trying to figure out if this size battery bank is going to last you for as long as you need, check out the link in the description and I have a pretty simple spreadsheet that will help you do a very broad estimate, keeping in mind that there are a lot of factors to this. But one final appliance, just to give you a little bit more of a picture of how much energy is in this thing. I personally don't have a CPAP machine, but I know that that is a very common medical device that a lot of people have and keeps a lot of people from boondocking because they pull quite a bit of power. And just to be clear, this is not medical advice, this is just math. But doing some basic math, CPAP machines tend to, from my quick Googling, pull between 60 to 90 watts. If we take that as an average of 75 watts, you should potentially be able to run a CPAP off of this thing for 26 hours, which if you sleep with your CPAP machine for 8 hours a night is the equivalent to 3 whole nights of CPAPing. So if you've wanted to go boondocking and the only thing keeping you from doing so was you needed to be able to plug in your CPAP at night, this power station or something like it could genuinely change how you RV. But please, if that's the case for you, go look up the specific power needs for your CPAP machine. It definitely varied a lot from the research that I did. And look into, I think there are some CPAP machines out there that you can get to pull DC power as opposed to AC power, which would be way more efficient for this specific application. This was just quick maths because I know a lot of people out there who RV also have CPAP machines. While we're talking about CPAPs, you may notice when you check out the AC outlets that this power station is claiming to give a pure sine wave. What the heck does that mean? Well, when we talk about AC power, we usually seen it drawn as a wave. Some cheaper inverters actually give you a really jittery approximation of a sine wave, as opposed to this beautiful curvy sine wave that we think about usually when we talk about AC power. For most electronics, probably doesn't matter and wouldn't affect you too much day to day. But if you're running some higher end appliances or medical devices like that CPAP machine, that's when you want to look into making sure that your inverter gives a pure sine wave. That's just something to look for if you are trying to price compare between different power stations and are trying to figure out what all these features mean. It isn't some mumbo jumbo. That's what the pure sine wave is telling you. You're not like sitting there with your cup of tea being like, I have a pure sine wave. Okay, so you figured out what you can run off of this thing and for how long. Now let's talk about how to charge this baby up. There are 3 different ways. First, it comes with a charging cable. You can just plug it into your AC outlets in your house, charge it up, and then head off to your trip. They claim in the instruction manual that came with this that this guy will charge all the way up to 100% in under 2 hours. I found that to be a little bit of a bold claim in real life application. It came to me in the mail at 27% charge, and it took it just under 2 hours to charge up to 100% from 27%. So presumably if you were charging all the way from 0, it would take a little bit longer than that. But even if we say that this guy takes 2.5 hours to charge up, that's still a pretty reasonable time for a battery bank of this size. And definitely really easy to just plug this in the night before you need to go on your trip, unplug it, take it with you, have power for your weekend. The second way that you could charge this guy up is with solar panels. Now, Aferiy did not send me any of their solar panels to try out with this guy, so I can't talk about how efficient they are, but they do sell solar panels for this guy on their website, and the port is pretty universal, so you could go get solar panels from a different company if you have a solar panel company that you already love. And this guy already has an MPPT built into him. An MPPT is just another magic box. There's a lot of magic boxes in your RV, but an MPPT would just be another magic box that takes the voltage coming off of the solar panels and then just transforms it into a voltage that can charge the batteries. According to the instructions, the MPPT inside of this power station can support up to 500 watts of solar panels plugged into it. But a good thing to know is that MPPTs in general, not just like the one inside of here, but the MPPT that we would put in your rig if we did a full solar setup, all MPPTs in the world. The cutoff that they have written on them for how much solar you can attach to them is a hard cutoff. If you accidentally plug in too many solar panels, you will brick that MPPT. It just totally kills it. It dies. It's unusable. There's no coming back. And a little known fact outside of people who are very into solar panels actually become more efficient when it is cold outside. So once the temperature starts dropping, you can actually get more wattage out of your panels than what they say that they provide. So usually when we're designing solar setups, we'll make sure to put in an MPPT that is significantly higher than the total wattage of solar panels that we're putting on the roof. That way we've got a good leeway in case any solar panel decides to be really excited that day. I don't know how much of a leeway that Aferiy has put into that 500 watt MPPT recommendation. So just to be safe, I would only plug in about 400 watts worth of solar panels onto this thing. And if they reach out to me and say that they have already built in a good amount of headspace into that 500 watt recommendation, I'll let you know in the comments. But honestly, panels tend to come in like 100 or 200 watt increments, and Aferiy does sell a 200 watt solar panel and a 400 watt solar panel. So it makes sense. And again, I don't have those solar panels to test myself, but if we were just to do some basic math, if you plugged in one 200 watt solar panel into this guy, in ideal conditions, it should be able to charge up this battery from 0 to 100% in around 10 hours. And if you instead plugged in a 400 watt solar panel, it should be able to charge this guy from 0 to full in around 5 hours. Now, keep in mind, that's just math. That's math calculating in ideal conditions, meaning full, direct, 100% sunlight hitting these panels. You're never going to hit that in real life. In real life, the sun moves and hits the panels at a different angle as the day goes on. There's shade, there's shadows. Sometimes it's a cloudy day. Your mileage day to day is going to vary, but that's the math to at least give you a ballpark place to start to figure out if this guy is going to work for you day to day. While we're talking about solar panels, let's just talk a little bit about the pros and cons to having your solar built onto your roof, as opposed to being an individual panel that you could plug into this guy and move around. If I came to your rig and gave you a full solar setup, we would permanently install your solar panels onto your roof. This is pretty convenient because then you never need to think about it. They're just up there doing their thing. But this does mean in order to get the most out of your solar panels, you need to have your RV parked in the sun, which is often, especially in the summer, not where you want your RV to be. If you're using this portable power station and are using a portable solar panel, then you can park your RV in the shade, under a beautiful oak tree, in the forest, living your best life, and then just go take the power station, put that out in the sun. This means you can help keep your RV a little cooler while still getting the most efficiency out of your solar panels. This does mean you're gonna have to put more thought in day to day about taking this guy out, putting him in the sun, but it does mean that you can keep your RV a little cooler and have your solar panels be a little bit more efficient. And then finally, the third way that you can charge this guy up is through the car charging cable. That car charging cable does not come standard with this power station, so you will need to order it separate, and I wasn't able to test it for this video, but here's just some math on how that would work and some things to consider. That car charging cable is just going to plug into the cigarette lighter on your dashboard. This could be the dash for your motorhome or your truck. But do keep in mind when you do this, it is going to drastically affect the fuel economy of your vehicle. So as you're driving around, you're going to be guzzling more gas. Number two, this is a very, very slow way to charge up this power station. That cigarette lighter that you're plugging into usually puts out between 90 to 120 watts. So if you were trying to charge this from 0 to 100% off of just that cigarette lighter, it would take you around 20 hours of driving straight to get this thing fully charged. So that's probably not going to be the way that you charge this station up from 0, but it could get you a couple extra hours of charge as you're driving between campsites. And please, 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 the third big thing you need to keep in mind when it comes to using this car charging cable is that you really, really can only do that when the car is running. This power station has no built-in external battery protection. What that means is if you plug this into that cigarette lighter on your dash when the car is not running, it will very quickly drain your car battery and potentially leave you stranded wherever you're parked. Some higher end DC to DC chargers, which is basically the fancy box that converts the DC power that comes out of your alternator into a voltage that can charge the battery in there a little better, have built-in battery protection so they don't drain the external battery that they're charging off of. And they're smart enough to cut off charge and not try to charge themselves when the car isn't running. This guy does not have that external battery protection. So please, 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 please be smart about using that car cable and make sure to unplug it when you stop driving. So let's talk a little bit about what the numbers on this thing means, also so you can compare and contrast to other power stations later if you want. This guy's called a 2400 watt power station, and that means that he can run 2400 watts worth of appliances at the same time. And again, just to give you a ballpark idea, it would be very, very difficult to get over that 2400 watt number just by plugging in a whole bunch of laptops. But my air fryer, for instance, is rated for 1500 watts. So you could run like 1.5 air fryers at the same time. And then the battery bank inside is rated to be a 2048 watt hour battery bank. And I know it's a little confusing because you have watts and watt hours. Wattage telling you how much you can run at once. Watt hours telling you how long you can run things for. So like we talked about, if you were to have a tech come out to your rig and do a full solar setup in your RV, I'm talking upgrading the battery bank, inverter, MPPT, DC to DC charger, solar panels, battery monitor, soup to nuts, whole 9 yards, you're having a multi-$1,000 conversation. This guy right now, I think is coming in at around $1,000, and that's just for the base power station. And then I'm pretty sure that you can get one 200 watt solar panel for them for under $400. So you could dip your toe into the solar, boondocking, getting out into nature, RV lifestyle for under $1,400, which is way, way less expensive than doing a full rig setup in your RV. But what does that price difference get you? Again, I want to be really clear here. This guy is not going to run anything built into your RV. So you're still going to need to make sure that whatever battery is built into your rig is big enough to run your lights, your slides, your leveling jacks, and all your propane appliances for the length of your trip. But if on top of that, you also want to be able to run things like your phone and your laptop, maybe like me, you're a terrible cook and the only way you know how to cook is with an air fryer, which is why it's used as an example in like every video I talk about. That's where this guy can come in. But you're also going to need to find space for this guy somewhere. He's currently taken up a pretty big chunk of the dining room table in this RV. He is roughly, and I'll read it off of here so I don't screw it up, 15.5 by 12 by 10.5 inches. And he's not exactly light. This guy weighs in at around 50 pounds. I am a power lifter for fun, but here's just an idea. As a small woman, just sort of the energy it takes to carry this roughly 50-pound thing around. It's not something you want to be doing like all the time, but still very much doable. And like we talked about, if you want to get this guy hooked up to solar, you are going to have to be taking him out of the RV and putting him in the sun with his solar panel pretty regularly. But if you want to get into boondocking for a significantly lower price point than what a full solar setup would be, I do think that this guy is a pretty dang good option. Price-wise, when I just did a little price comparison, when you start looking at other power stations that have that pure sine wave inverter, the MPPT, the DC to DC charger, and over a 2000 watt hour battery bank, you tend to find things closer to the $1,500 $1,500 to $2,000 range. So for this guy to be coming in at around $1,000, and I've seen them put up sales every now and again for less, I'm really not mad at that price point. I will say if the weight is the biggest sticking point for you, I have seen ones out there that are closer to 40 pounds than to 50 pounds. It's not a huge weight difference, but if that's really important to you, lighter ones do exist out there, but again, they do tend to be more expensive. And I will say that this guy had the most outlets, like the AC outlets, out of any power station I've seen of this size. So if you're someone that wants to plug a lot of things in at the same time, this is the one for you. I do think for most RVers, 6 outlets might be a little more than what you need, but again, they're there if you need them, and for the price point, not mad at it. And then a couple other feature things, just so you know they're there. There's a cute little storage box on the top to keep your power cords in. You can also charge things off of a cigarette lighter if that's still something people do. And like every other power station out there that I saw, it comes with a light. I really don't have any idea what you would use this light for that you wouldn't just use a flashlight. Going for a walk? Reading a book? I really don't know. If you're someone out there that has a power station like this and you use this light regularly, please let me know. Oh, it does flash apparently. Oh, rave mode. I guess if you want to take your rave out to the woods, you're ready. I know this flashing version is for safety, but I really just don't see a universe where I use this. And I guess that's the other thing. Anytime you change a setting on here, it makes that beeping noise. And it's not just for the light, it's whenever you turn on and off the USB ports or the AC, it makes that beep. And as someone who just loves to go out in nature, to be in the peace and quiet, I just don't need things to be beeping in my life. But that's a very, very small gripe. But if I could turn that setting off, I personally would. But all in all, I really kind of liked this thing, guys. And after playing around with it for a couple days, I did reach out to them and was like, hey, any chance you could give my viewers a discount code? And they were like, yes. So if you're interested in looking for one of these, check out, I have a link in the description that does have a discount code. I feel like a real influencer now. I don't make any money off of that, but if you want to save a couple bucks, go check that out. And if you are interested in boondocking, you'll definitely want to check out this video where I reviewed a 12-volt air conditioner that can help cool your RV with less power. Ooh.